Good morning and welcome to the HopeFilled Financial Podcast. My name is Jay Disberger, your one and only HopeFilled Financial Coach. Thank you for joining me today. Last week, I know that I said we were going to be talking about today's high interest rates that have continued to rise and how they impact your personal finances today. However, I came across this article from the Penny Hoarder that's about 7 companies that they recommend that you turn to when you're in a pinch and you need some money. I figured this would be something that we should talk about now before we dig into interest rates. To get today started, I'd like to share a story with you about when I was in college and I experienced an overdraft fee. So when I was in school, I was still figuring out how to manage money and how to budget. At one point, I needed to make a purchase. I had a pending deposit. I didn't have much in the way of a checking balance or a checking buffer. I didn't understand how that worked at this point. However, my available balance included the pending deposit that I had from my job. I don't even remember what it was, but I figured I could go out and buy it, and if my card got declined, I would just have to wait, and if it didn't, then yay, it worked. I had, when I set up the bank accounts, declined overdraft protection intentionally because I had received some very good, positive, and helpful advice on that. After the deposit had cleared and the transaction had cleared, on my online banking, the order in which these appeared were reversed. That way, the expenditure appeared before the deposit, making it look like my account went negative. Now, I mentioned I declined overdraft protection, which means what the bank should have done is declined my debit card. But just like they showed, the funds were quote-unquote available, so they let it go through. When the account showed negative, they automatically charged me a $30 overdraft fee. This was inappropriate because I had declined overdraft protection. Overdraft protection basically allows the bank to approve a transaction knowing that your account will go negative. They will charge you a fee, and you will recoup the balance when you make your next deposit. In this case, I had declined this as a function because I didn't want fees. We talked about it in the first 4 episodes. Fees are not a frugal use of your money. I called the bank and I let them know that I had declined overdraft protection when I set up the account. Sure enough, there was a mistake in the way that my account was set up, and my declining of overdraft protection was not applied. We worked it out, and everything worked out great. However, this is a learning experience for you, and as it was a learning experience for me. If you are watching your account and you see that the bank has reordered something on the online checking, or their algorithm has reordered something, it might be helpful to check if there are fees that have popped up. This is why it's important to be running a checking register, running a budget, why it's important to keep an eye on your personal finances, and why it's important to decline overdraft protection. Now, onto today's budget tip. The budget tip that I have for you this week is when you're budgeting for a given month, preparing your unique budget for that month, your zero-based budget, look back at last year's budget at this time. Look at the expenditures that you made. What you're looking for is inspiration to kind of help guide you as you're coming up with the numbers for your budget this year in areas that haven't changed, being aware of the things that have changed from last year, and looking for those annual expenses that are easy to forget. Holidays like Christmas or birthdays, those are easy to remember. Those are at the forefront of our mind when we're preparing for the month that's associated with the holiday. If we're getting ready for Thanksgiving, when we're writing the budget for November, we know Thanksgiving's going to be on there. We know we got to up the food budget or the hosting budget or the travel. However, there are some annual expenses that aren't so obvious, that aren't at the forefront of our minds. A good example for me would be an Amazon Prime subscription. That subscription, when it goes through once a year, is something that's pretty easy to forget about. It's something that you, like a lot of subscriptions, set and forget. If you have annual expenses that are automated like this, it's important to double check what happened last year. Ask yourself if that's expected to be the same or more or gone this year, and proceed accordingly. Next, we're going to jump to a question submitted by a listener. Today's question comes from Micah. Micah asks, when I began college, some people in my life suggested that I go ahead and take any of the student loans offered to me. What are your suggestions for paying for college tuition without taking out thousands of dollars in student loans? This is a great question. The alternative to student loans, in order to afford higher education, is naturally going to be not borrowing for it and paying your way as you go, saving up the money and paying for the tuition, paying for your books, paying for your college expenses in cash, and pursuing scholarships that can fill in the gap between what you're capable of earning as a full-time student who has maybe a part-time job and or are working through the summer, together using that to pay your way through school. Now let's pause for a moment and talk about student loans as a whole. Student loans are a huge problem for this country. Student loan debt has eclipsed credit card debt. It is the thing that is weighing down the average American's income more than anything else. A student loan takes over 20 years to pay off on average. 20 years. And just because you have gotten the student loan as you're in school doesn't mean you're going to graduate. And if you don't graduate, guess what? You still have the debt. And that debt is non-bankruptable. It's something that will weigh down on your income until you pay it off, even if you go bankrupt. Even if the worst of the worst happens, that student loan is stuck to you. As we're pursuing paying for college without a student loan, then, what we want to be doing is looking at our options so that we can choose something that is economical, the frugal college choice, if you will. We want something that is going to be prudent and economical and get us most of what we want, most of the utility. It's still going to give us the degree that we're searching for, but for less cost. One great option, and I had siblings who pursued this option, is to go to a community college for the first year or two. When you're doing your prerequisites, it hardly matters where you go. Why pay more when the community college could suffice and you could roll those over to whatever public or private university you plan on getting your final degree from? When you do this, make sure that your college of choice accepts the community college credits toward the degree you're pursuing. Otherwise, it would just be a waste. But a community college can still cost you 1/3 the cost of the average public university if you're getting in-state tuition. If you're looking for getting a good deal at a 4-year university, a public university, going out of state will cost you more than double. More than double. Last year, the average in-state tuition for a public university was just over $10,000. Out of state, it was $27,000 for a year of tuition. And that's just tuition. That's not room and board. The most expensive school on the list, when I did some research last year that I found, was $61,000. $61,000 in tuition for 1 year. If you get the same amount of education and the same amount of credit toward your degree for $3,000 as opposed to $61,000, well, goodness, I think the choice should be obvious there. As you are preparing for school, don't be afraid to shop around and focus really hard on your grades. Getting excellent grades can help you with scholarships. When I was in school, this is what helped me the most. My academic success led to scholarships I didn't even know were possible, and they made it completely realistic to afford school debt-free, getting a master's, a bachelor's, and a minor in the span of 6 years, all paid for from work and scholarships. In America, over 30% of college students graduate debt-free. Over 30%. 1 in 3 are doing it. 1 in 3 are working their way through school. And those who are doing it and paying their way through school are doing so in a way that is setting them up for financial success. It is releasing them of the common, average, ordinary handicap to your greatest wealth building tool, your income. when they have the most time that they ever will for growing their wealth, for building their career, and setting themselves up with the optimal foundation for their hope-filled financial future. Thank you so much, Micah, for your question. We really appreciate it. Now, on to today's main topic. As I mentioned at the start of the podcast, today I have an article from the Penny Hoarder. You can see it if you're watching on YouTube. I'm going to show it on screen. And if you're just listening, don't worry. I'll read the pertinent parts that we need to discuss as we go along. The article is entitled, 7 Companies to Ask for Money When You Can't Pay Your Bills. And the article starts by saying, when you log into your bank account, how do your savings look? Probably not as good as you'd like. It always seems to be an uphill battle to build and keep a decent amount of savings. But what if your car breaks down or you have a sudden medical bill? Ask one of these companies to help. ... I'm going to stop here and mention, if you're following the HopeFilled footsteps for success, the HopeFilled footsteps for your financial success, then you know that you get out of debt. And after you get out of debt, on step 4, what you do is you build an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses. And when you build that emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses, that should permit you to take care of, that should enable you to take care of something like a car breaking down or a medical expense, anything that wouldn't be covered by your health insurance or cost sharing ministry. You should be able to cover with your emergency fund. Now, they're talking in a situation where you're having a hard time sustaining that emergency fund. If you write a zero-based budget every month, you should be able to make sure and control your spending so that you are living within your means, living on less than you make, and making sure that you are able to continue building your savings and maintain that emergency fund once you're ready for it. That way, you don't have to pursue extra money in the case of an emergency. Regardless of this, let's see what the Penny Hoarder recommends. Ask this website, this is their first point. Ask this website to pay your credit card bill this month. If you have credit card debt, you know the anxiety, the interest rates, the fear, you're never going to escape. And the truth is, your credit card company doesn't really care. It's just getting rich by ripping you off with high interest rates, some up to 36%. This year, me narrating now, stepping away from the article, the average credit card interest rate is over 19%, almost 20% right now. That's absolutely insane. But a website called AIM1 wants to help. If you owe your credit card company $50,000 or less, AIM1 will match you with a low-interest loan that you can use to pay off every single one of your balances. The article continues, the benefit, you'll be left with one bill to pay each month, and because personal loans have lower interest rates, AIM1 rates start at 2.49%. Quick disclaimer, this was written in 2022. That rate's got to be higher now. It's got to be closer to 5%. You'll get out of debt that much faster, plus no credit card payments this month. Let's stop there. This is basically an online provider of debt consolidation. Basically a personal loan that you can use. You take it out, you pay off all your little debts, and you collect them into one big debt. And this one's specifically aimed toward credit cards. If you're following the HopeFilled footsteps for financial success, then you know that we followed the debt snowball that was popularized by Dave Ramsey. The debt snowball is not a new invention. It wasn't something that I came up with. It wasn't something that Dave Ramsey even came up with. It's where you list your debts smallest to largest in balance. And what it does is it gamifies paying off debt. It makes it so that when you're paying off debt, you get quick wins early on. These motivate you to do your best and to pay off debt faster. The alternative to the debt snowball is the debt avalanche. In the debt avalanche, you list it in order from highest interest rate to lowest interest rate, and you pay them off in that order. In this case, what you have is the mathematical best way to pay off debt if you want to minimize how much you spend. However, those who follow the debt snowball almost always pay off their debt faster than those following the debt avalanche, and those following the debt snowball are oftentimes more successful and much less likely to lose steam because they get psychologically motivated. If you're working on paying off debt, I can't tell you how essential and valuable it is to get those quick wins early on. The problem with debt consolidation with credit cards, like what the Penny Hoarder is recommending here, is that it takes all of your little guys, all of your quick wins, and pools them together into a large cumulative balance that A, looks intimidating, B, doesn't enable you to get any quick wins, and C, makes you feel like you've made progress even though you've simply moved one debt from one area to another. And if you are going to lean back, take a deep sigh of relief, and say, I did something, I've made some progress, and ease up on the throttle on getting out of debt, well, you're going to probably end up paying more in interest just holding this thing around longer than you would have had you gotten a fire behind you to get your debt paid off and stayed fired up and super intense about getting out of debt. For this reason, I don't think that this is a good idea, at least in this situation. Debt consolidation can be useful and valuable in some areas where the interest that is being racked up on a substantial balance is so much so that it is the reason that you are unable to get out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle and unable to make any progress on your debt. Moving on, let's talk about point number 2 in the article. Point 2 reads, get paid up to $140 a month just for sharing your honest opinion. That sounds interesting. I have a lot of opinions. If you're turning blue in the face waiting for a raise at work, it might be time to quit holding your breath and start speaking your mind to someone who wants to listen. Brands want to hear your opinions. They want you to help inform their business decisions on everything from products and services to logos and ads. They are willing to pay you up to $140 a month for it. A free site called Branded Surveys will pay you up to $5 per survey for sharing your thoughts with their branded partners. Taking 3 quick surveys a day could earn you up to $140 a month. Okay. So let's take a step back. They've got some more written here, but I think we've seen enough. What they're saying here is you can fill out surveys and get paid for providing your opinion so that branded companies under branded surveys can get market research and they can use you for that market research. Now, this is a legitimate way of making money. The problem is if you do the math on what they're offering and you look at the surveys and you try to figure how long it would take, you're making about 1/3 of minimum wage. It's not a very economical use of your time. It's not a very efficient use of your time. And if you have a genuine financial emergency and you're trying to pay for that car breaking down or the medical bill that was mentioned at the start of the article, $140 a month is not going to make a huge change, and you're going to be able to make a lot more progress if you were to get a part-time job or do something, start up a little side hustle that can do an awful lot more, and you could make more than $7 every 3 hours or so. For this reason, I don't think that the Penny Hoarder has very good advice in giving this website as an option for kind of racking up money if you need it for an emergency. And I also don't think this is a very frugal use of your time unless you really enjoy surveys and you can take these surveys when you otherwise wouldn't be able to have a part-time job or be doing anything else productive. Let's continue on to point 3. Point 3 reads, let this app pay up to $83. $83 when you win solitaire. When I think of cards and money, I think of gambling. Lots of us already play solitaire on our phones for fun or just to pass the time. Want to see if you can win money at it? There's a free app called Solitaire Cash that pays you up to $83 every time you win. You might be thinking there's got to be a catch, that this is definitely one of those spammy apps, right? Wrong. There really isn't a catch. Most of the games are free, but cash players can join higher stakes tournaments for bigger cash prizes. There is no pressure. There aren't even any annoying ads. With each game, you'll battle it out against at least 5 other players. Everyone gets the same deck, so winning is totally a matter of skill. Okay, we're just going to stop there. The thing is on this app, if you dig into it, what ends up happening is you put money into a pool, you play a card game, just like you would at a casino, but it's solitaire, and you see who can finish the game of solitaire first. And this app is riddled with robots, programs, AI bots that they've put out there that are programmed to solve the puzzle significantly faster than is humanly possible. As a result, not only is this gambling that is specifically not allowed in a number of states. This app, because it is gambling, is not legal in some states in America. What it's doing is it's making it so that you can possibly end up losing a lot of money. It's giving you an addictive gambling experience that is always with you in your smartphone. It's always with you every day. It's right there. And if you get hooked and you start losing money on this thing, this becomes a sinkhole for your money. In no way, shape, or form, in no universe would I ever think this is a smart way to be making money. With that, I want to insert a quick disclaimer. The Penny Hoarder does not sponsor HopeFilled Financial Coaching, and HopeFilled Financial Coaching is not sponsored by any of the companies that I am talking about in this article. I am simply providing you with my honest-to-goodness opinion for your good and for your educational experience here on this podcast. Let's continue with the article. I'm just going to skip the rest on the Solitaire app and move to point 4. Point 4 reads, add $225 to your wallet while watching the news. It has been a historic year in the news, and we're all constantly refreshing for the latest update. You probably know more than one news junkie who fancies themselves a constitutional scholar or foreign policy expert. They're getting political on me here. That might not be the best news for your dinner conversations, but it's great news for your wallet. You could add up to $225 a month to your pocket by signing up for a free account with the Inbox Dollars. They'll present you with short surveys to choose from every day, which you can fill out while you watch tonight's broadcast. Okay. You just have to answer honestly, and Inbox Dollars will continue to pay you every month. This might sound too good to be true, but it's already paid its users more than $56 million. So if you look at the news stories, and I did a little bit of research on this when I first saw Inbox Dollars, and it turns out you're making less than 50 cents an hour that you're putting time into this. Again, this is an even less efficient and a less economical, a less frugal use of your time than pursuing any other means of even minimum wage labor in order to accommodate and pay for an emergency. If you really have a genuine emergency, you're probably not sitting around watching the news, filling out surveys. You want to get out there and work. And again, less than 50 cents an hour is not enough to make a sizable impact or a timely impact that makes you feel like you're making progress. So I don't think this is a very good way. I mean, it is a way, and it's in a legitimate way to attain money. I don't think it's the best way if you're trying to cover an emergency. Let's move on to part 5. Part 5 reads, get paid to play bingo. This sounds just like the solitaire thing, more gambling. There's a free iPhone app called Bingo Cash that pays you up to $80 every time you win bingo. That's money that can go right towards your debt. Same exact comment that I have about the solitaire thing. You're attaching yourself to a gambling addiction on your smartphone that is simply, one tap away, and it's an easy way to end up sinking a lot of money in little itty bitty bits and pieces and put you in a worse situation and prevent you from being able to take care of your emergency funds, preventing you from taking care of any emergency, and even breaking your budget. So we're going to skip the rest of that and move on to part 6. Part 6 of the Penny Hoarder article reads, "Let this app spot you money." I'm interested. It happens to all of us at some point, the dreaded overdraft. It's like we were talking about that earlier or something. It's not only embarrassing if your card gets declined at the grocery store over a few bucks, but the fees that come with it only put you further into a hole. Double yikes. Again, like the story I told, you have the option to decline overdraft protection. You don't need it. You can tell your bank no, and if you tell your bank no, then you don't end up with the fees. Now, you will still get your card declined if there's no money in there to cover the purchase. But, if you're running a monthly budget and you're managing an appropriate buffer in your checking account, because when you run a zero-based budget, the month starts with the same amount in your checking account as it ends. And that amount that you keep in the checking account, that buffer, should be enough to prevent your account going negative. At most, that amount could be equivalent to your monthly income. That way, as they say on the YNAB podcast, the You Need a Budget podcast, you're basically a month ahead. And if you're a month ahead, you're probably not going to overdraft unless you transfer money for a major purchase, but then go out and purchase the thing before the money is available in your checking account. Let's continue with the article. But a banking app called Chime wants to protect you from both of these problems with its Spot Me feature. Spot Me, okay. It's a fee-free overdraft protection that lets you overdraft up to $200 for eligible members without consequence. Yes, if you just sign up for a free Chime checking account and set up qualifying $200 a month direct deposit to take advantage of this face-saving tool, you'll also get access to other sweet features like getting paid up to... Okay, I'm going to stop here. The idea here is Chime, it's an online bank. It's a bank without a brick or mortar store. And they have an app and a lot of marketing. What they're saying is they will permit you to go overdraft your account by up to $200 if you qualify, and they won't charge you interest on it, and they won't charge you a fee for it. Reading through their terms and service, this is exactly what is claimed here by the Penny Hoarder for what they're offering. However, they give you the ability to overdraft a certain amount based on your qualifications, and those qualifications are going to be your history with the company, how much you have in your direct deposit, how much money you've carried with them, how much money goes through your account, how responsible do they think you are given the inflow and outflow from your account, and also probably how much time there is. I'm sure it's a proprietary algorithm, but they only start you at $20 for this fee-free overdraft protection. And $20 shouldn't be enough to be, this is like a way that I can get overdraft protection and not have to pay for it. Well, it's limited. And if you go past that very limited limit, then you still get declined. And if you qualify for the higher limit, say this $200, you're probably not going to overdraft or ever use overdraft protection if you're writing a monthly budget and tracking your funds and keeping an eye on your finances. So I don't think this is a game changer. I don't think this is a make or break. I don't think that just for this feature, you should migrate to a bank. Even if another bank used it, I don't think that it would be a reason to switch. I also think that this particular feature that they're talking about is going to give people a sense of ease of mind when it comes to their money, that they don't have to be watching their checking account quite as closely because there's some overdraft protection. And if you're given emotional permission by a financial product to relax and let the budget go by the wayside and stop tracking where your money's going, then you're at a higher risk of overspending your income, ending up in a pattern of financial behavior that is compromising to your hope-filled financial future. This is one of the biggest problems that I have with credit cards, because credit cards completely separate you from the pain that you experience when you spend money, and they make it so that you can spend as much as you want, up to your credit limit naturally. In doing so, you don't have to pay it off right away, and all you have is this tiny little, like 2% of the balance minimum payment that you have to make. Then it basically gives you emotional permission. A credit card gives you emotional permission to not run a budget, to not manage your personal finances, and just be passively accepting of whatever happens to you, and force you into a situation where you're reactive and you wake up one day hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. For this reason, I don't think that this is something to jump for. I don't think it's necessarily terribly bad, but I think it could give you a false emotional reaction to your money management that could become unhealthy. Let's move on to the last one. Point 7, the final part of the article. Earn $300+ a month in passive income. I like passive income. With your extra space. If you're like us, your garage probably isn't doing much of anything at the moment. Maybe you have some tools in there, or maybe it's home to your boxes and odds and ends collecting dust. But a website called Neighbor, your extra space, whether it's a spare room, an empty garage, or a parking space, could be earning you an extra $300 a month in totally passive income. Neighbor works by connecting you with people who need storage space with hosts who have room to spare. The average host makes about $300 a month. That's the average, wow. But some people have earned up to $50,000 a year just by letting people park on their property. I'm moving forward a little bit. Says that they charge you 4.9% for this particular service. So, you get to keep the bulk of the profit from this. And if you can really make that much money, well, this is a way to, I think, supplement your income, not necessarily take care of an emergency, but it does make you more able to deal with emergencies by upping your income. And talking $300+ a month, now we're cooking with something that could replace tires or take care of a minor auto repair, or in a couple months take care of a more significant auto repair, and even cover a chunk of medical bills that might pop up within your deductible if you don't have your deductible saved in your emergency fund. So I think this is an excellent way to go if you wanted to try to find some passive income and you have a lot of extra space that you can offer like this. I think it's a service that I might use if and only if I couldn't find a professional storage solution or family that would charge me less than what I would see available on the app. I also don't know if this app has any controversies behind it. I don't know anything really about the Neighbor company, the Neighbor app. On the whole, I think this is the best recommendation that the Penny Hoarder has in this article, and it's the only one that I might pursue myself in a situation where I was looking to up my passive income in a way that just utilized extra available space. So I'm curious if any of you out there have ever used Neighbor, have had good luck with using Neighbor, or have had bad luck using Neighbor. I'd like you to comment on the podcast anywhere that comments are available. I know there are comments on YouTube, or drop us a message on our Facebook page and let us know what your experience has been using this particular app. I'm genuinely curious to see the positives and the negatives, and if there's enough demand for it, maybe I'll dedicate a whole episode going through reviews of Neighbor and some of the feedback that we get back from our listeners. With that covers all of the main topic here. Next week, as I promised, we will be going into an article from a bank talking about how today's higher and rising interest rates impact your personal financial future, your personal financial situation, and what it is that you need to know about it and how you might pivot. We'll see if they have good advice. We'll see if they have bad advice. We'll see if they have anything that we can talk about in depth that could help you as you pursue your hope-filled financial future. Until next week, budget bravely and enjoy your hope-filled financial future.